Welcome to the Freedom Frequency. I'm Laura. I'm a consciousness guide and multidimensional channel, pinpointing where your soul is inviting you to fully embody its passion and stretch into your boldest edge with grace, certainty, and unstoppable momentum.
And I'm Anna Jones, the Bliss Facilitator. I help entrepreneurs find freedom in all areas of their life so they can finally have a life that feels as good as it looks.
We created this podcast series to explore the invisible prisons we create and how to break free by tuning into the vibrations of limitless living, bold choices, and true freedom.
We're here to share the tools, stories, and mindsets that have helped us break free and create a life we truly love in hopes that they will serve you too.
To us, freedom isn't a goal, it's our natural state.
Join us on this journey of reclaiming and redefining freedom,
so you can turn up your frequency and step into your own definition of freedom.
Welcome to the Freedom Frequency.
Welcome to the second episode of the Freedom Frequency. Today, we are going to talk about whatever the fuck we want because we want to tap into the frequency of freedom. And I wanted to kind of start today with talking about this concept that's been coming up for me around these subconscious contracts that can exist that can hold us back in ways that we may recognize and we may not recognize, but even if we do recognize them, we can kind of get attached to them and then they hold us back, right? So for instance, I'll give you an example of this. So one of my strong desires lately has been to be just very devoted and focused in my work. Now, my work is service. It feels like service, right? But I think that anytime we use the word work, what comes up for me is this fear around, well, my dad was a workaholic. Even my mom was kind of a workaholic for a period of time. And, but especially with my father, it felt like that always superseded the kind of emotional attention, the presence, the gentleness. And so I have this fear of neglecting my children or neglecting my family. That's very deep within me that I've attended to so many times. So when this desire comes up around focusing on work, it's like I can do it for a period of time, then I start to get anxious about it. And I've recognized, you know what? This is kind of my default. When this shows up, it's like my default to say, oh, well, this is just because I'm afraid of being like my father. And it's like, you know what? The number of times I've attended to this, the number of times I've been with this and cleared it, and it's now just become a habit. It's now just become a habit that this comes up in my mind, and I get to actually just decide this isn't a thing anymore, right? This is no longer the association. I've been in presence with that. I've cleared that. I've healed that. Now what I recognize is this is really me being invited into demonstrating for the collective that you can make this choice, especially as a woman, and be deeply, deeply present with your family and deeply present with yourself and deeply present with what you desire. And so I think that's an important thing to bring up because I even talked to a client, I think it was 6 or 8 weeks ago, and she was talking about, we were having this conversation about her focus on her career and her focus on establishing an intimate relationship. And so what the question that the Akashic Records brought forward for her was, what feels like a stronger desire within your field right now? And she was like, my career. And she goes, that makes me feel gross. And that makes me feel awful because I'm not supposed to choose a career over a partner, And so this is something that is rampant through the collective, this shame that can come up with claiming what we desire and feeling well, it's wrong because either that's not how it's typically done, or it's wrong because of how things have unfolded in my family. And it's being able to recognize, what do I desire to stand for? What is the pathway I desire to create that invites people into a different way?
Yeah. I mean, you just touched on so many things, and this could go down so many different routes. And it's so interesting because I was already talking about, no shame in the game today, right? Because this is a conversation that I have with some of my clients who are just starting their business. And it's like, well, I have to let go of what's already bringing income, what's already giving me the lifestyle that I want, because I have to jump. I have to go for it. I have to take that leap. And I was like, hold on. To me, it does not make sense to like, to bless you, to like dysregulate your nervous system in a way that's so shocking that you're just going to spiral down into God knows what, because like somebody on social media told you that you had to take that leap and you had to make that jump and it's all or nothing. And it's like, yeah, it is really all or nothing in the sense of like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is the direction in which I want to go. And I know that this is something that my job or my current reality, whatever, is still sustaining me. It's going to be very clear when your job is going to stop sustaining the passion and the passion becomes what sustains you or something else, right? A lot of times we think like, oh, our purpose, our passion is to, heal a bajillion people. No, your purpose on this earth could be like to snuggle with puppies. Legit, legit. Like that, a lot of times we just like, your purpose could be to just like, walk down the street and tell someone that they look beautiful or that you admire whatever, right? Like, I think that sometimes we make things so much bigger and we question ourselves like, oh my God, am I doing enough? Am I this and that? We're in this fixing mode. And like what you were talking about your client, it's like, who cares, right? Like, who cares if you want to dedicate your time right now to your business? If you are doing something that you're excited about, it would be ideal if we do it every single day. And I'm not talking about something big. It can be like drinking a coffee, like going over to your favorite park, whatever. But I'm a firm believer that if we do something that we really enjoy every single day, everything else is going to come in. The partner is going to come in, the community is going to come in, I don't know whatever you want, the private chef, the trips, the whatever, the opportunities, everything is going to come in. And I actually started, well, I just did today, but I feel amazing. And I haven't really done anything. I've been in pajamas all day and I'm loving this. I had a Zoom call earlier. Then I had to do something else. Oh, another Zoom call. And I had to do some stuff in between. And then I met up with you. Like, it's been a very chill day. I haven't left my house. And I'm like, I'm just having the best day because this morning I did a very short, brief meditation, visualization, whatever you want to call it. And I just said to myself, today's going to be the best day of my life. Today is going to be the best day of my life. And all the people that I need to speak to are going to show up. And all the opportunities that I need to attend to are going to show up. And today is the best day of my life. I just know it and I feel it. And I can see it and I can taste it. And when you're in that space of like, today is the best day of my life, it's like, what could go wrong, quote unquote, like everything's going to be amazing. So I love that approach of just like, who fucking cares, man? Like, just go for it. Do whatever is really lighting you up in this moment. And everything else is going to fall into place because I know that I can get in my head sometimes. You and I talk about stuff. So it's like, I like that. I like that approach. It's just what feels alive in you now.
I like that too because it's really what you're doing is you're choosing this frequency of desire. You're choosing this frequency of freedom around being able to actualize the sensation of desire at any time and the fact that you have those desires fulfilled at any time. And I was just talking about this with somebody this morning actually, where we were talking about this concept of like, yes, you can have two desires at the same time. Like I use the example of I can desire to eat dark chocolate right now, and I also hold the desire of being really clean and pure in my physical body long term, right? And so it's what is the energy that's meeting me in this moment, and being able to tap into that sensation of desire and recognizing that I can choose to fulfill this in any way that I am most strongly drawn right now, not from just like, oh, I want to satisfy this to like shut up my craving, right? But
Yeah.
from a space of what you're saying, like that vibe. Today's going to be the best day of my life. I know it. I can feel it. I can see it. I can taste it, right? And I think that us being able to have long-term things that we can look forward to. Say, I have a beautiful trip to Sedona in the Grand Canyon and Antelope Canyon that I'm going on in April. I'm so excited about it. I love traveling. That's a huge desire of mine. I'm also not going to sit here in waiting energy until that time arrives, because I have multiple things. In fact, this is a practice that I do every single month right before the beginning of the next month, is I put multiple things on my calendar each week that I am excited about, that I just really desire, that I'm really, really looking forward to. And the daily things do come in that decision to be like this morning that you said today is going to be the best day of my life. And I was sitting there saying, like, my life is so amazing. It's so spacious. It's so abundant. It's so free. Like, I am so grateful, right? And just sitting in that vibration at the same time that I continue to actualize the desires that come forward. Like, movement on that is important, because yes, we want to decide it, but we also want to act in accordance with it, because that just gives our nervous systems the tangible evidence that we're actually putting this into play. And it also tells the universe, I'm receiving your invitation and I'm taking it seriously, right? And I'm not allowing old stories to come in that tell me that I can't actualize it. I can have the worst trauma history in the world, right? And I can still make those choices. Now, granted, my nervous system is going to desire to be grounded in a safe space in order to do so if I've had complex trauma. But, it's really being able to meet yourself in where you are and where you are going and who you desire to become.
Yeah. 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 I love that. And it's so true. We oftentimes forget that we are in co-creation with God, with universe, whatever you want to call it. And so, I sent you this Instagram video today. I don't know if you've watched it already, but my sister sent it to me, and it was like, I think it's probably like the best Abraham Hicks video I've seen, because Abraham Hicks to me is like, it's great. I love her, them, whatever, but it also seems very like far-fetched at times, because it's like so out there. It's like so like, oh my gosh, like how do you land this into the human 3D? But the example, and I'm probably going to butcher this, it's okay, I can come back and make justice, but it said something along the lines of like the famous, like, I want to have $1 million. And so it's like, when something seems so far away from you, can you start asking questions that normalize the process of getting there? So she gave examples of like, um, you know, I'm sure there are other people in the world who desire to be a millionaire. I wonder what got them there. I wonder how they got there. I wonder how they were like when they were thinking like me before they got to be a millionaire. And it's just like the questions, right? The wonder versus worry vibe, that it's like, how can I ask these questions and play with life and play with what energies are being thrown at me? And I'm like catching them instead of just being like, oh, there we go. There goes one. Like, we're not supposed to just be passerbys if we want to do something, like grand with our lives, whatever that means to you, whatever grand is. But take these opportunities, right? And ask yourself these questions so you feel closer to your dream, to your desire, whatever that may be. I've used the $1 million because that's what she used, and that's what a lot of people desire. But it's like, what do you crave? You can go even, further than the $1 million, because $1 million provides you freedom, provides you with so much spaciousness, right? Which is something that we love and we desire. So it's like, okay, who could I be helping? Who could I be supporting? What would I be doing? How would I be spending my time, and this and that? And whatever comes up, if there's guilt or shame, be like, all right, cool, I see you, thank you, peace out. We don't need to spiral into the whirlpool of shame and guilt.
And I think that is also beautifully prevented by doing what you were saying earlier, which is finding something that you're excited about each day, right? And not searching for it, but just allowing it to come to you and allowing yourself to get excited. Like that example earlier with work for me. It's like I'm allowed to let myself get excited about work without being attached to the fact that that's what I'm excited about. Because the fact is, we're just meant to feel excited. Like, let yourself just feel that and don't be attached to, like, okay, well, maybe tomorrow I won't be excited about work. Okay, maybe you won't be. Maybe you'll be excited about going for a hike. Maybe you'll be excited about sleeping, right? Like, whatever. And so it's being able to meet desire in that moment and recognizing that, like, one of my favorite examples of this is Jay Shetty and his wife, right? Who decide every year, right? They sit down and they're just like, do we want to continue being married to each other for another year? And it's beautiful because it's like, yes, I get to claim what I desire right now. And I also I don't have to grip onto this as this has to be the desire that I claim for the rest of my life, right? I
Mm.
get to choose to, and that's just an example to bring in what I'm talking about here, which is that I can choose to be excited about this right now and not have this like pre shame over the fact that I might not crave it tomorrow or I might not have desire for it tomorrow, right? Like ultimately, yes, you're still going to have desires that feel bigger, that feel longer term, or that need to continue to be refined. And then you're going to have smaller desires, but recognizing that really what you're doing is playing with that vibe, like you were talking about, playing with the energy that's coming into your field in whatever form it's arriving, right? And not being like questioning yourself, like, well, why do I desire that? Like, oh, that's weird, right? And it's like, okay, just let yourself desire it. Even if you don't follow through with action and actually doing it, like, just let yourself desire it and be like, okay, that's funny. I just desire that.
Yeah. And also knowing that many of the desires that come up aren't actually yours. If it's something like you have discernment upon the desires, right? I used to have a friend that she was like, I have this fantasy of getting gangbanged, but she's like, but honestly, like in real life, do I want that? No. Like I would die. I would die if that happened. Like I would freak out. I would like my nervous system would just like go completely out of whack. And we were just laughing about it because it's like, yeah, it's so true. Like there are these like fantasies, desires, these like things that are so taboo, but they come into our field, right? For whatever reason. And I think that the more we can laugh about it or can just be like, oh my gosh, can you imagine if I got gangbang? Like what? Like, oh my gosh, imagine. Like, if you can just like make fun of whatever that like crazy quote unquote desire or fantasy is, it's like you're still playing. You're still having fun. You're not taking things too seriously. And so I think that's where I personally have found that it's just so freeing. It's so freeing because you don't take things so personally. You don't get involved in like, am I left or am I right? Am I this? Am I that? It's like, who fucking cares? Like, I don't have to give account. I don't have to give, I don't have to render accounts to anybody about my thoughts, my bank account, my life in general. It's like, that's for me. That's for me. And I think that we've lost that sense of play because now everything is like, oh, you're gonna get canceled, or you can't say that, or you can't do that. It's like, who fucking cares? Like everyone is meant to have their opinion. Not everybody's gonna have the same opinion. So why are we making such a big deal out of this anyways?
Yeah. And you know what that makes me think of, Anna, is like, I think one of the reasons that we can end up in some of these subconscious patterns and doubts and, narratives that run through our minds from like our families of origin is because when we do feel like, oh, if I admit to this desire, or if I go do this thing that might seem zany or off the beaten path, it's where am I going to belong? Kind of like we talked about in the first episode, where it's like, our primal nervous system and feeling like, well, I'm going to get kicked out of the tribe, if I
Mm-hmm.
make choice X or Y instead of Z. it's like we then our nervous systems default to our original sense of belonging in this lifetime, and we go back to that family of origin pattern or those narratives, and it's like, okay, well, I'm safe here. At least I know that I have a tie here. And that's not a conscious thing, right? Like, that's not a conscious process, but I do think that that's something that shows up, that we automatically bring in these narratives that feel like they tether us. And it's like, no, 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 no. I don't need to be tethered there because I'm tethered up there. I'm tethered in here. And
Yeah.
I actually know exactly where I'm going without having necessarily a clear, tangible, concrete vision, like stepwise of exactly what this is going to look like and how it's going to unfold. But like in
Yeah.
my heart of hearts, I know exactly where I'm going. And I think that's the tether that is meant to hold us going forward, that or being in presence of spirit in the moment as well. And knowing that we do have that anchor that's always within us and always with us, that gives us that choice of discernment, that gives us space to do that at our own pace. And I think you're exactly right in terms of not taking things so seriously, right? Because it all seems like this life and death thing. And it's like, great. If you put a video up on Instagram and people make fun of you and it's killing you too much, take it down. Like, it's
Yeah.
like nothing is permanent.
Yeah.
Nothing is permanent. And I think that's what we forget and we latch onto so much, rather than, one of the reasons we take things so personally is because we haven't fully anchored in taking our own selves personally. Like you said earlier, like, that's mine, that's for me. Have you really allowed yourself to let that be for you?
Hmm. Yeah.
And just been in presence with that for you and with you, and like appreciate your desire, just like you did this morning, saying like today is going to be the best day, and like allowing yourself to just bask in that and just be with that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No. And I mean, I always tell people, I'm like, this is your only life. Like, not to put any pressure on it, but like, this is your only life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, are you really enjoying your life? Like, are you really like, and I'm not saying like be fully present in every single moment, because sometimes you can't, right? Sometimes there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's like, just enjoy it. And I get that there are a lot of things that, run through our heads, but at the end of the day, if we have the privilege of aging to to like 80, 90, God knows how long we're going to age now, but like, can we say that we lived a really, like, just a beautiful, fulfilling, wholesome life? Like, can you just accept that you're a weirdo and you're spiritual and you're intellectual and you're grounded and you're whatever? We're all freaks. Like, we're all freaks in one way or another to someone. And I just like, life's too short to keep my freak in. You know, if I hear some music and I like want to bust a move, like when I'm out in the street and like no one's there, like I want to do those things. And to maybe people are like, what's that's not even weird. But like, to me, that still feels like, oh my gosh, I could never do that, but I can. You know what I mean? So it's just like, sometimes we think like, oh, being a freak, it's not so much like doing something that's so extraordinary, but it's something that you feel like you really want to do. And like, you're holding yourself back because of that. When in reality, everyone else is dying to do the same and they don't do it. So it's like, we're all living in this fucking big cage that we've put on ourselves, because we're like, oh yeah, but I thought you were the one that wanted the cage. No, no, you wanted the cage. No, I didn't want the cage. So did you want it? No. Did you want it? No. Did you want it? No. So we're all like updating the fact that we don't want to live in a fucking cage anymore. And so,
It's so
you know,
funny that you're saying this, because this is literally exactly the reading that I was doing this morning in one of Marianne Williamson's books. I think it's or no, maybe it was Melody Beattie, Return to the Heart. And she was talking exactly about this, which is this concept of it was about freedom. I'm like, oh, look at that. And we're recording today. And she was talking about how, we actually agree to have our freedom stifled, even if we don't feel we're in conscious agreement of that. right? Because we might not be aware of it when we're younger, things like that. We agree, our souls at some level agreed for us to kind of stifle that for a period of time. But then we have that recognition of, oh, wait, that's been stifled. And we get a little pissy and a little feisty there for a little bit, right? But then it's like, actually, freedom's been with me all along, right? Freedom's been with me all along. And when we return to that part of ourselves and we allow it to be expressed, we recognize that everybody we do interact with in this lifetime has signed up to witness that part of ourselves, to witness all of ourselves. And it's funny because as my children see me continuing to come more and more into my own, it's like I'll do things and they're just like, oh my gosh, mom, like, mom, you're, like they're embarrassed by me or whatever it is. And I'm just like, dude, feel however you want to feel. Like, this is
Yeah.
me, take me or leave me. You know what I mean? And I just want to be fully expressed, and I don't want to be, I don't want to fit myself into any boxes anymore. We do that so much, and I think that's part of the human condition. And so I think it's something that, like, don't be hard on yourself. Don't kick yourself if you feel that you've had those experiences, and just recognize them and be like, yeah, I recognize them, and I can have my little temper tantrum about it if I want to. But then guess what? Choose what you can now taste, right? Like, choose what you can now see and be like, oh, yes, I am finally free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like the only reason I would want to have kids is to just annoy them when they're teenagers and just be like, you know what I mean? Like, just fucking like embarrass them. And they're like, mom. And I'm just like, what? And I would have like the best time ever at their expense. No, I'm
Oh,
joking.
yeah, it's very enjoyable. It's very enjoyable. And it's beautiful because whether they consciously recognize it or not, it actually really opens them. And you'll witness that in other people. And I think that's what we'll leave you with today, is to recognize, to really look for that in other people, to just observe how other people can open and expand in their own authenticity, even if at the same time they're looking at you like, what the fuck is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's so true.
thank
Yeah.
you so much for joining us for this episode, guys. We are going to sign off for now, but we will see you very, very soon, and have a beautiful, free, and fabulous day. Bye.
Bye.